if guitarists knew their history, they would tell you, just like George Benson, just like Santana, down here, it was a Ford Center there, said, I know where I am. I am in the place where Charlie Christian grew up. They acknowledged that if he hadn't opened those doors, then they never would have become who they have become. Yeah. And so it's a not so well guitarist who doesn't know who Charlie Christian is. And as far as I can see, as long as the guitar is played, Charlie Christian will be remembered into perpetuity. And I don't see any end to manufacturing guitars, because everybody loves them. I mean, I don't care if it's gospel. You'll see it at the church house. Yeah. You'll see it at the nightclub. You'll see that guitar everywhere. And he brought it to life. And in this festival this year, the legacy still lives. That's our theme. And we've got an international artist that's designing our logo and our banner side. We're going to have pole banners again this year. We started that around here. This organization, as a matter of fact, has started a lot of things that others are just not catching on to. But, you know, it's kind of hard when everybody's trying to take your stuff and run on down the street and really don't want to give you credit or the respect of saying, once in a while, you know, somebody will come back and they'll say, oh, Anita, you know, here's what I got with what you gave me. But the lady in Ghana who wants to talk about the women of Deep Deuce, now that's a little difficult because it was a man's world. But there were some, like Zia N. Page Bro, who taught Charlie Christian and all those other famous people, and who ended up being a good friend of Duke Ellington, who came back here for her service when she died. And there were other women on Deep Deuce, Roscoe Dungee's sister, Drusilla Dunjee Houston, who was a strong advocate for women, and but her brother was the one that got all the publicity because it was a man's world, and he did have a vehicle to report the news and to get it to the community. And I worked briefly for Roscoe Dunjee when he had the BLAC Dispatch in between children. When I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, I used to run little articles in there to the BLAC Dispatch because I also belonged to a modeling club at that time. And so one day I went in to see Mr. Dunjee to see if he'd put an article in the paper, and he asked me what I was doing these days, because he didn't know me, but he would see me come in. And I said, well, I'm on maternity leave from Western Electric Company. And so he said, well, I got a little job I want you to do for me. And I thought, what? I'm just running in here, bringing little articles. And that was when W.P. Bill Atkins had a paper, and he was the one that created that mall out there in Midwest City. He was running for governor. And he told me he wanted me to go down and work in the Democratic headquarters which was at Central Bank at the time. And I said, well, what am I going to do? He said, well, I want you to work here in my office first. So he had me typing up all of this stuff, you know, because I could type. And then he started sending me out on assignment to go over there, go over to the Republican headquarters and get their literature so we could see it, and then we can put this. And I thought, this is nerve-wracking. You know, I didn't think I was going to be doing all that. And he kept trying. He said, you never know who you will meet. And he was right, because that's how I met George and I. Because George and I was running for lieutenant governor at the time. And I thought he was the funniest person I had ever met in my life, because he had such a...
That's hilarious.
Yes, he is. And so he was a bachelor at that time.
Yeah.
And he would come in there all the time. George and I was always in there. So George and I won, but W.P. Bill Atkinson did not win. And so that's how I met them. So when I kind of look back on my life, it's been pretty interesting. And I wouldn't trade shoes with anybody, you know, even though it's been really tough and challenging at times. But I win a lot. I don't lose much. I do.